All right, let's dive right in. Today, we are looking at a massive announcement in the world of space exploration. But we're not going to look at it through the lens of a scientist. Nope. Today, we're putting on our financial analyst hats, because what we're really breaking down here is what could be the start of a literal lunar gold rush. We're talking about the birth of a brand new market.
And this is the claim at the absolute heart of our analysis today. Open for business. That's not just some catchy phrase. In market terms, it means customers. It means supply chains. It means revenue. And it definitely means fierce competition. So what's the big catalyst? What just flipped the switch and turned on the lunar economy?
Well, it all starts with one thing: Starship V3. And again, we're not just looking at this as some engineering marvel. We're looking at it as the starting gun for a whole new economic era.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting from a business perspective. See, breaking the physics book in this context, it really means breaking the old economic models. For decades, the insane cost of just getting anything into space has been the ultimate barrier to entry for any real commercial ventures. But this announcement, it completely changes that entire equation.
So let's get into the key details. Starship V3 is going to the moon, powered by these new Raptor 3 engines. But from a financial analyst's point of view, the most important detail, the real headline, is this: NASA is already a confirmed customer. This is huge. This isn't some speculative bet anymore. When you have an anchor client like NASA, it de-risks the entire venture right from the get-go.
So just how big of an impact are we talking about here? To really understand the economic earthquake this whole thing creates, we've got to dive into the logistics. We have to look at the numbers that define this new reality.
200 tons. Just let that number sink in for a second. 200. This isn't just a small step up, it's a monumental leap that completely rewrites the rulebook for what's possible in a single launch. This one number changes the entire financial equation for doing business in space.
And that brings us to the single most important metric in the entire launch industry: cost per ton. Every single space venture, whether it's a satellite company or a future lunar mining operation, lives and dies by this number. It's the metric that dictates which business models are actually possible and which ones are just science fiction.
And here is that crucial connection. Launching 200 tons at once is a direct assault on that cost per ton metric. You see, by maximizing the payload so dramatically, the fixed costs of any given launch get spread super thin, which causes the price to deliver each and every ton to orbit to absolutely plummet.
This quote, it just perfectly captures the economic impact. We're not just talking about shipping some stuff anymore. We're talking about shipping the means of production. This could totally upend the costs of orbital supply chains. It makes things like mass manufacturing and assembly on the moon using lunar resources a real possibility. Think about it like this. It's the difference between shipping one car and shipping the entire factory that builds the cars.
Now, a disruption this big doesn't happen in a vacuum, right? It's forcing a massive shakeup in the competitive landscape. So let's take a look at how this new capability stacks up against everyone else.
Yeah, the source doesn't exactly mince words about the market reaction. When one player makes a leap this huge, every other company in the space is forced to go right back to the drawing board. They have to reevaluate their tech, their roadmap, their entire business model. What you're seeing here is a classic disruptor versus incumbent scenario. On one side, you've got SpaceX with this massive payload capacity and brand new engines, all designed to slash costs. And on the other side, you've got legacy competitors who are now stuck with smaller payloads and much higher cost structures. This logistical advantage creates what we in finance call a huge competitive moat.
Okay, so with this incredible technology and a pretty commanding competitive lead, what's the long-term investment thesis here? Let's break down what they're calling the bull case for a multiplanetary economy.
This quote really gets to the heart of the whole thesis. The argument is that we are moving past the era of government-funded exploration and heading straight into private sector industrialization. The goal is no longer just to visit, it's to build and ultimately to profit.
And this roadmap really illustrates the strategic path to getting profitable. Phase 1 is all about mastering logistics, becoming the go-to delivery service and generating revenue that way. Then Phase 2 leverages that dominance to enable, and you guessed it, profit from infrastructure contracts. Now Phase 3, that's the big one for revenue, tapping into the commodities market through large-scale lunar mining. And Phase 4, well, that's the ultimate market expansion, creating a permanent, self-sustaining economy off-world.
Look, the source material presents this incredibly ambitious vision. But from an investor standpoint, you have to ask about the risks, right? The road from one successful launch to a profitable lunar mine is, well, it's going to be long, and it's filled with technical, regulatory, and huge financial challenges. Any clear-eyed analysis has to account for the massive execution risk and the market volatility that's going to be involved here.
So we've covered the tech, the logistics, the competition, and the long-term financial roadmap. As we wrap this up, let's bring this massive economic shift down to a more personal level. And if you want to see the very first step of this whole economic journey for yourself, the source material suggests you should follow CollabGenerate to catch the launch. So we'll leave you with this final provocative question. Because beyond all the balance sheets and payload capacities, opening a new economic frontier, it's a profound opportunity. It forces all of us to ask what we'd be willing to risk for a chance to build something completely, totally new. It's definitely something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.